We are standing with two different trees here today. The Prunus serotina, the black cherry, very distinguishable from its flaky bark. Super flaky bark, goes all the way up. Then Celtis occidentalis, the northern hackberry, one of the most distinguishable trees in the forest, providing little bumps and ridges that makes it very unique. There's no other tree with a bark like it. Right here is a forked tulip tree, the Indiana state tree, Liriodendron tulipifera. As you can see, another good way to tell, the bark kind of resembles that of a cottonwood or a poplar. That's a good way to ID it. But if you look up there, do you see like those little balls up there? It looks like little little seed pods maybe? Well, those are the remaining seed pods from the fall that produce on a tulip tree. I'm standing here with Juglans nigra, the black walnut. A good way to identify it by its wintertime bark is the bark has a lot of grooves, thick grooves and ridges. It kind of resembles that of a pine tree. Like if you look at the bark of an eastern white pine, similar to that. A lot of old black walnuts here in this forest produce a toxin called juglane that can suppress the growth of certain tree species. It paves the way for other trees such as certain maples and other trees to take hold while preventing the growth of other trees. Mother Nature battling it out for dominance in an essence. Look at this one, growing right on the edge of the cliff into the creek down there. How cool is that? I'm standing here with two different trees of the same species, Fagus grandifolia and, well, Fagus grandifolia, the American beech. One of the few trees that displays mercescence into the winter, that is the retaining of its leaves all winter through. Some trees, like some oaks, will retain partial canopy of their leaves in the winter. Young beeches especially will retain all their leaves into the winter. Their smooth bark kind of resembles that of a birch, and their leaves all winter. Very easy to identify, even in the winter months. Grows best in deeply acidic soil, and they do not tolerate urban sites very well, especially the American beech. Now, the European beech species is much better suited in landscaping purposes. You'll only find these under forest canopies and rarely in disturbed sites. More examples of Fagus grandifolia, American beech. That's B-E-E-C-H, not B-E-A-C-H. Very obvious which ones are the American beech trees. Standing here with Gladitsia triacanthos, the honey locust tree. In cultivation, there is a variety called inermis, which is the thornless variety, and almost all honey locusts in cultivation are thornless, of the inermis variety. In the wild, they are covered in deadly little thorns. Deadly because they're piercing and very dangerous, especially with young children who are irresponsible. I am standing here with Platanus occidentalis, the American sycamore. Naturally grows in full sun and near wet areas. The bark, as it matures, is a more brown peeling bark, but the young bark is almost a bright white. Absolutely beautiful. Very similar to that of a birch or an aspen. Now you might say, wet? Thought you were in a forest. Are you in a swamp? Nope. Right next to a creek. And it's kind of open with denser woods over that way. So when this tree germinated, this is likely completely open and open to sunshine. Sycamores cannot germinate under a dense forest canopy, and we're kind of in a densely wooded canopy right now, which tells me when this tree germinated, it was more open. There's cottonwood, sycamore, wet soil, both need sunshine to germinate. Tells me this area was cleared open probably several decades ago. Beautiful tree nonetheless. I'm standing here with Acer saccharum, the sugar maple, a tree that is very, very popular in the eastern United States and southern Canada. It is the #1 tree used for maple syrup production because it produces the most sugars of any maple tree in the world. Generally, does not, just like the American beech, does not perform well in urban compacted soils. So other choices such as red maple, silver maple, and other species will be better suited for landscaping purposes. There are some cultivars on the market that are selected for heat resistance and tolerance of urban soils. So there are some sugar maples that can be grown in cultivation. Such a massive tree, grown for its usually lighter colored bark that is very ruffled and wrinkled. Very distinctive. Standing here with Quercus rubra, the northern red oak, one of several species of oak native to Indiana. This is the most common of all the oaks in eastern North America. This is a forked one with, what are the odds? A tree limb that lands right in the fork. Very distinctive. It has kind of a cracked bark, but it remains relatively smooth into old age. Despite cracked bark, it stays smooth. So it's relatively easy to identify oak trees. Different species can be difficult to differentiate, but to identify the genus Quercus can be an easier task. I am standing here with Celtis occidentalis, the northern hackberry tree. Very distinctive for its warted, I call them warts, like giant plates and warts of bark that goes all the way up and down the tree. Very distinctive. There's no other tree besides the hackberry that has this style of bark. This is it's the monster of a tree. It's like 3 different trunks and it goes up. Just absolutely beautiful style bark. Standing here with Cercis canadensis, the eastern redbud tree. Very popular in landscaping, very overplanted, but for good reasons. It's a really nice tree, very beneficial to wildlife and landscapes all over the temperate world, not just in eastern North America where it's native. This is an older tree, probably been here for 20 plus years. It is considered kind of a scrubby tree, maxing at about 25 feet tall and wide. And that is maximum. I've seen some mature specimens at 15 to 20, and the tallest specimens that exist are about 35 feet. So relatively a scrubby tree, normally growing in clumps. Those single stem forms do exist. Infamous for their little pea seed pods, because it is in the legume family, the pea family, so it does produce pea pods. Beautiful pinkish purple flowers that coat the tree in the spring and heart-shaped leaves in the summer. Many, many cultivars of this species exist. I am standing here with Juniperus virginiana, the eastern red cedar. Not a true cedar, but a juniper. It is the only native conifer to Indianapolis and the surrounding communities. It is not the only native conifer to the state of Indiana, but to most of central Indiana. Grows in disturbed sites, poor soils, and will germinate in most regions, except shade canopies.